Last year, Nigel Mansell may have become Formula One world champion in his Williams, but the most exciting motorsport on television was provided by the British Touring Car Championship. Fierce competition and very close racing in recognisable cars from the major manufacturers that led to a thrilling climax at the end of the year. Today at Silverstone, one of 3 drivers will be crowned British Touring Car Champion here in the final 15-lap race on the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit. One of 3 manufacturers could win: BMW, Vauxhall or Toyota. We're going to look at that battle from the inside with one of the emerging new teams, Nissan. I'd qualified the 3rd Nissan Primera in 13th place, and a very wet practice had shuffled the grid so much that all 3 championship leaders were back in the pack. We awaited the green light, heartbeats racing. Second, third, fourth, up through the gears on the charge to the first corner. Special racing gearboxes are permitted, but sometimes they play up.
Bloody thing's jumping out of bloody gear!
The advantage of a good start had been lost, but at least it wasn't Nissan's fault.
The important point is this is a British-made car. The Primera is made in Sunderland, and so it's nice to be in the championship. But the main reason we're in it is because of the technological developments we get through the racing programme we can put back into the road-going cars. We're of course in it because it's a good way of demonstrating the Primera's multi-link suspension, and finally I suppose because it's good fun.
Good fun and plenty of action is just what I was having as I battled back from my poor start. Up to 8th, I tried to defend an attack from James Kay's Toyota and lost out, both to James and the Peugeot of Ian Flux. We ducked and dived for the last few laps, but I was destined to finish a respectable 10th, and my appetite had been whetted for testing the top 3 cars 2 days later. How different would they be? John Cleland was driving the lead Vauxhall Cavalier in the chase for the title.
It's a very user-friendly car, which is one of the good things, because when I broke a couple of bones at Donington, had it been one of the other cars without power steering, then it might have been very difficult to drive, whereas my car's got power steering and it's a very user-friendly, civilised car to drive. I think you'll enjoy driving it.
Title chasing for Toyota was 91 champion Will Hoy.
I think you'll find it a very friendly car, a very user-friendly car. Particularly when you're putting the power on out of the corners, it doesn't, the wheel doesn't snatch away from you. The power is delivered very progressively, and it's very easy to drive from that point. The gearbox is quite slow, but I think you're used to using you've got the same gearbox in the Nissan.
For BMW, Tim Harvey was the man on form, having won the previous 5 races on the trot.
We have good engines, good tyres, the whole package is extremely good. And now that we've sorted it out, sorted the suspension and everything, it's a very easy car to drive. It's quite user-friendly. All racing cars are tricky to drive right on the limit, but I think I'd rather be driving this than anything else.
In this decisive race, Tim's teammate Steve Soper was riding shotgun for him. Cleland was determined to get after Harvey. Soper was equally determined to hold him back. It ended just as John Cleland had predicted it might.
One small touch in the wrong place, I could be in the gravel, I could have a puncture, it could be anything, so I think the worry is to stay out of trouble.
This one unfortunate incident decided the championship. The stewards later spread the blame equally, but there was widespread sympathy for John Cleland, if only because Steve Soper had less to lose. Tim Harvey escaped to the finish and became the 1992 British Touring Car Champion.
Well, it's got to be the best feeling you can have in motor racing. It's the Britain's premier championship. I've been in it on and off since '87. Obviously I feel ecstatic. There are always going to be 2 unhappy people tonight, but I know how the others have felt. I've never won it before and they have, so I'm absolutely delighted.
So Tim Harvey wins the championship for BMW. Reigning champion Will Hoy drops to 2nd for Toyota, and poor John Cleland is pushed down to 3rd for Vauxhall. We'll try his car first. On track tests like this, there's no chance to change the suspension settings to suit the new driver, and it takes a couple of laps of Alton Park short circuit to warm things up before you can get a feel for how the cars handle.
Well, now I've got the tyres warmed up, this Vauxhall is really coming alive. It's the same basic specification as the Nissan. It's got the same 6-speed X-Track gearbox, power steering, it's front-wheel drive with about 300 horsepower. And yet it feels totally different. The steering is higher geared, so I don't have to turn the steering wheel quite so much to get the lock. It's more like a single-seater. The steering has a very good weight and feel. Also the gear change has got a very positive linkage. Handling-wise, the car hops a little bit. Whoa, there we go. But that hoppiness actually makes the front-wheel drive car come alive. It gives a feeling that when you change the balance of the power, the car changes direction, which is very important to a racing driver. Swapping to the Toyota, it's still front-wheel drive, just like the Vauxhall, but all of a sudden you notice the steering's much closer to you, and there's a bigger wheel, and there's a reason for that. There's no power steering. Now, it doesn't feel that much difference, but you suddenly get all those front-wheel drive feelings of torque, steer, and wheel spin. They shout at you through the steering. Now this might be a good thing, but initially it doesn't add to your confidence when driving a new car. If user-friendly is the in word, I'll have the Vauxhall. But once you get used to it, then you certainly enjoy the feel the Toyota gives. Brake pressure is a little bit harder in this Toyota. You have to press more on the brakes. The turn in, perhaps again, you have to throw the Toyota in while the Vauxhall is fed in. Druid's in full. Power out. Whoa, wheel spin over the crest. 6th gear. Braking, 5th, 4th, 3rd, 2nd. Into lodge. Power understeer, grab another gear. You don't use the clutch on the way up. You don't use it on the way down. What could be simpler? And so to the champion's car, the BMW. The only one in the championship to be rear-wheel drive. Like the others, it's got 300 horsepower, it's got a 6-speed racing gearbox. But the rear-wheel drive out on a racetrack, it just feels right. However hard you try with front-wheel drive, it's always more of a compromise. The BMW has such beautiful poise. The messages through the steering wheel are just right. Of course, with braking, you're braking more with 4 wheels, whereas the front-wheel drive cars rely much more on the front wheels. With the BMW, there's ABS, as there is on the Vauxhall, and that's something that's going to be outlawed in '93 on grounds of cost. The only tricky thing with the BMW is the fact that it's left-hand drive, so I have to get used to not clipping the apex curves. They keep left-hand drive because that's the way the original car was designed, and the steering and exhaust manifold alignment is much more efficient. It actual fact, of all the racing cars I've ever driven, this BMW is one of the most beautifully balanced and poised cars. It's just total enjoyment.